and welcome back to episode 6 of the Heatwave podcast. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Dos Moves and Relent. How are you all feeling today? We good?
Hey, good man. Glad to be back. Not necessarily our usual time, but yeah, I'm excited to do this episode. I think we have a lot of interesting stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm excited myself and excited to put out this content for the game that we love.
Yeah, man, I'm feeling good too. We've got a lot to talk about today, so obviously we're talking all about Anaheim. So we might as well just jump right in. Dos, how did you find Anaheim? Like, if you had to rate it, how would you find it?
All right, so I think it's there's a lot of different aspects to the tournament. So I think overall I would give it this is tough for me. I want to either give it an A or like a B plus, and I think no matter what, even a perfect tournament, just the fact that we were limited to 16 teams, and it's not the championship, right? Like I think just for that, I'm like, I can't really do it. But I think the gameplay was great. Production seemed to do really well. I really enjoyed we had 4 streams. They didn't miss one match, so I thought that was like incredible. And like all the VODs are up, and on the first day all the VODs even come without like any of the commentary and stuff on YouTube, which I think some people might complain about that, but I actually like enjoyed that because you could just go back and watch the gameplay without, getting distracted by some of the commentary. So I think overall I'd give it a B plus. One of the negative things I think is I felt like it kind of ran pretty long for no reason. And I think really Sunday should have been shorter for like a bunch of different reasons, but that would probably be my only gripe. I mean, we were only like a week and a half out of the tournament, but I already feel like I forgot some of the other aspects that I was like thinking about it going in. But I think those are like my main issues with it and the main praises that I have for it. What do you think, Roland?
Yeah,
Oh, sorry, go for it.
I'll jump in quickly. It's all good. I agree with you mostly. I'd say it's probably a B slash B plus for me. I don't think it quite got into that A. But it was good. I enjoyed the pacing of it, despite the last day. It ran pretty long, especially for me in the with the time zones and everything. I was watching a finals with like one eye closed, pretty much. It was like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, it was good. The actual the performances were good. We got a lot of upsets, which made it more enjoyable. But yeah, the only problem was the time zones, and obviously this that was open. It would have been crazy. It would have been like A plus kind of range, but yeah, there's not really much you can do about that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I just to add on top of that, yeah, I'm on did you guys freeze out?
It was okay, I
Hey,
think, watching.
okay, I think
Yeah, I think it froze.
yeah, start over again, Relent, because I'm pretty sure if I didn't get any of that, they didn't. So go ahead with what you were saying.
I was just saying, like I think it was like a B for me, like just because like I don't know, I think the crowd brings a certain aspect of it, hearing that background noise and just seeing them there. Like I think the even the place like DreamHack would take more attentive to like make it more flashy, more eye catching. So it was just like it was great to see the competition, but outside of that, it was kind of like, yeah, this just feels like a regular online tournament, but size you get a POV of everybody sitting side by side.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's one thing that I didn't even, I'm so used to now like having tournaments lands that there's no crowd, but that's another thing too. It is definitely like, even though if it's, something that's beyond their control, it definitely takes away from like the LAN atmosphere.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the no crowds. I think a couple of players even talked about it. Like they hated it. They hated playing in front of no crowds. It just kind of like whenever they'd call out, it was like an echo in the room type thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did kind of dampen the event a bit. But for what it was, I think it was still.
Yeah, yeah. Overall, it ran really well, and you could tell they like thought about a lot of things. But yeah, I was thinking about myself when I was talking about like the scheduling. Like I'm on the West Coast, and I thought it ran late. I couldn't even finish the finals. I was like, I've watched a lot of Halo already. Like, I'm done. I can't even imagine staying up. Like, how late did it finish over there?
I think it was about 5, half 5-ish,
Oh my
but
god.
I had to stay up because I had to obviously tweet about it and stuff. So yeah, I had to stay up, but it was worth it for what it was. I think the finals were pretty good considering.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, it was a good tournament overall.
No, definitely. So going off the finals, I think the first topic, I guess we can go over. Let's go over the top 16. Does anybody have that pulled up? And then we can kind of
Uh, yeah,
start
I
from
got it
there.
up. Oh,
All right, if you
do
just
you want
want
me
to
to
go
start
ahead.
from
Yeah, just start
the
from the
top
top and
or?
just to list, the ending team orders.
Yeah, so obviously first was C9, then Optic second, E United third, which was I'll get into it a bit later. Sentinels fourth, fifth, sixth was Pioneers and G2, seventh, eighth was FaZe and Xset, 9 to 12 was Esports Arena Red, Oxygen, UYU, Fnatic, and then 13th to 16th was Complexity, Spacestation, G1, and Torrent.
All right. Yeah, so I know we had a couple upsets. Actually, I remembered now, like, for the agenda that I wanted to go over. So, real quick, we obviously on last episode we made some predictions, and I know some of those blew up in our faces, and some of those some of those went right for us. So I wanted to go around and just say like one or two of them that, like, on both sides of it, that you got horribly wrong, or that you got that you right. Let's go with you, Ed.
Um, well, the two that I got completely wrong were Space Station and FaZe. I think I had Space Station eighth maybe, and then I had FaZe. I think it was second. Obviously they fell down the order quite a bit, some more than others, but yeah, just I feel like results were pretty unpredictable. So I'm not really annoyed at myself too much because I don't think anyone could have predicted these.
No, I agree. They were absolutely crazy. Relent, what about you?
Yeah, so my two biggest ones, like the one I got the wrong the most was complexity, making a top five placing. Obviously they were way off, and I think my biggest prediction was I thought that I didn't think SSG was going to place too well. They wound up getting top 16, so I
Yeah.
mean I think overall, kind of like Ed said, like the way this event went and some of the teams like leading up to it just didn't perform the way they were or have in the past. So it was just like an unpredictable chaos. Like it was like a to me, it reminded me of a March Madness bracket cluster, cluster mess up.
Oh yeah. Well, it's always ridiculous to, predict the end result of the tournament when you don't even know how the brackets are gonna play out. But no, it was definitely mostly for fun. So I got the only one I got right, which is like I feel like was an easier pick, was I guess Cloud9 to win, but I don't think that's really going out on too much of a limb. Yeah, I think I'm trying to think. SSG was probably my worst prediction. I think I picked them to even go like second in their groups, and they ended up going 0-3, and then even losing like right off the bat after that. But okay, that was more just a little fun topic. So let's go over to Cloud9. I guess first question is, how impressive was their tournament run this time around?
Um, I think. I think any tournament run that they're running through and they're winning, like I think it's impressive because at the end of the day, like these were the top 16 teams of the North America, so like they're none of them are nothing to slack on, like So I mean, like I just think I think it's impressive nonetheless. Like um, I think I think a couple teams, and I think we'll get to it later on, but I think a few like one or two teams gave them a good run for their money and kind of I wouldn't say knocked them off their high horse, but kind of maybe re-humbled them a little bit to maybe take it a bit more serious because I think in some situations like where they're dominating so much, like they're not taking it as serious. But now that I think they had a few teams kind of put forth some effort and kind of knock them off of the high horse a little bit. I think kind of really made them refocus a little bit.
Definitely. What about you, Ed? Were you impressed by this performance?
I thought they had an impressive run after the Fnatic series. It got a little ropey. I think it's kind of damaged their reputation a little bit. Almost shown like the human side of them. Because everyone saw them as like obviously they're like unbeatable. Um, but yeah, I think if like Fnatic can show that they can get close to beating them, and not sound harsh, but Fnatic aren't like the likes of like an Optic or a Sentinels. I think those two teams should look at like that series as kind of like a confidence boost for them because it's like Cloud9 aren't like this like omniscient and not like above anyone else. I mean, they looked a bit vulnerable during that Fnatic series. Um,
Yeah,
but like unless it's the top three, top four team, I really can't see Cloud9 losing right now. To be honest.
definitely. No, I agree. It kind of, the reason I even like posed that question was because like we had a couple teams like kind of seem to like fall apart, and it's like weird to say because the teams for the most part, the teams that we expected to do well did well, but it wasn't in necessarily the form that we would have, that would have inspired confidence that they could compete with this Cloud9 team, right? So we saw Sentinels. I think they ended up fourth, right? Or was it third or fourth? But
Fourth.
okay, fourth. But even with them, like I don't think anybody like watched that Sentinels team and was thinking that this was their best performance. I think if anything, it was almost a better run at rally. At least it was more exciting. So maybe that made us feel like they were playing better.
Yeah.
Whether they were or not, it's kind of hard to tell. But yeah, I think there was definitely some variables, and that was kind of my other question that was linked to this was which you guys both answered. So you guys both are thinking that what Fnatic's game against them was enough to kind of tarnish their image that they're unbeatable. Is that right?
Yeah, at least like to a certain extent. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they still won the series in the end. It's not like if they would have lost that series, it would have been completely different. But they did still win the series. But
Yeah,
I think it was more the fact that it was Fnatic that took them to a 3-2.
exactly. Yeah.
Like to a map 5. I think that kind of shows them as. I think their reputation is a tiny bit tarnished. Not anything to worry about though.
Yeah, and I think it kind of backs up what me and you talked about on a previous episode where we were saying that some of these teams it seems like they can compete with Cloud9, but then
Mhm.
they're not close. They're just like not. They're getting like to the 10-yard line and not not being able to finish like.
Yeah.
And it's just if you give these guys any wiggle room, they're gonna like make you pay for it, and that's definitely what we saw in that Fnatic series. Posey, you got anything else about this Cloud9 team?
No, I mean, I think we kind of touched base on it all, and like even with the, I think the Fnatic series, like you guys said, like I think Fnatic had to play a perfect game, on that last game to make it out. And I think they dropped, missed a few things. Overall, that's
Yeah.
why it's Cloud9 won. But I mean, again, I just think, I think it was good for. I think it was more beneficial to Cloud9 than it was to anybody else to see that, just because it's like, wow, like we came close to losing to an AEM team that barely made it in.
Yeah. So maybe that was that almost had the opposite effect on what we're saying. Like it kind of woke them up and to where they're like, okay, we can't slack off the rest of this tournament. Like we're almost getting
Yeah, I think
beaten groups by. I, I mean, it was what was it the third seeded team? I didn't even fourth.
yeah, I don't
Uh, I think it was. Did Fnatic seed second? Oh, never mind. Ignore me.
What I don't I'm sorry, that might not even be the right groups I'm saying. I think that was after group play, right?
yeah, it was after
Yeah,
group
yeah,
play.
yeah. So that was my mistake. Okay, so let's move on. So we're gonna talk about Optic Gaming right now. We're saving the elephant in the room for later, where we'll talk about like the roster changes. Um, but I think this team's performance was enough for us to talk about them. So same question as like Cloud9. How was their performance overall? It's kind of I feel kind of bad posing the question this way, but was this grand finals appearance kind of gifted to them in a way, or was it like a hard fought victory? I'll go with you, Ed.
Um, I think they came into the tournament almost knowing they had something to prove. Especially since at their last LAN, they what did they get, fifth last time?
I believe
At
so, yeah.
Anaheim with sixth. But yeah, I thought overall they had a pretty good performance. I thought Pistola was slacking a tiny bit on some maps. But then APG did the same like a few maps later. So it's kind of back and forth between those two. Um, but I think if Sentinels were like if they had their full roster for a bit longer and had more time to prepare, I think they could have Optic could have lost that winners semis because they only won 3-2. So if that Sentinels team's been together for longer with more practice, I think that team could probably take out that Optic roster. Um, but yeah, I think obviously they went down to a losers bracket after winners finals to Cloud9, and it almost like they woke up a bit more. Um, and then they kind of had to prove something, so then they went and 3-0 United, which was a good result for them. But overall, I was pretty impressed. With the squad making it to finals, and then they ended up taking 2 maps away from C9, which is pretty impressive. They don't always do that when they face C9.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was a pretty decent performance. B plus again for me.
Yeah. What
Yeah, I
about you,
mean,
Posey?
yeah, just I mean, I think it was definitely an improvement from their earlier from the Raleigh event, and kind of like I said on our last episode was like if they showed up and played Optic Gaming like they do online, then they would have a good placement. And I think for the most part overall, I think they played very well throughout the tournament. I mean, their pool play wasn't that hard given some of the scores and teams they played and how those teams performed at this event.
Mm-hmm.
And then they won out in pools, so they got a first round bye. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I kind of with Ted on this one. I think it's like a honestly kind of like a B minus right there on the border for me, just because of like I do feel like some of the some of their I feel like their road to where they got to was not as hard as some of the others was.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, it's bound to happen in the pool play system. It's just the nature of it. No, I think I agree with you guys overall. I mean, second place is it's impressive. Maybe it could have been a harder path, but I thought they played pretty well overall. I really even though the scoreline 4-2, I was still like, if you like watch I think one of the wins didn't like Pistola have to like clutch it to get him into overtime, or in overtime he had to like clutch it just to give them the win. I thought so.
I
Like
think so, yeah.
yeah, so for me, I'm almost like that's almost a wash. Like you can kind of go either, like if a game like that goes either way, it's like they're like barely like getting these victories out, So I still think um that compared to Cloud9, which doesn't say much, but they're just really like, I mean, they're not really any match for Cloud9 at this point. Okay, I guess the last aspect that I wanted to touch, actually, so you kind of brought this up, Ed. So I kind of had a different opinion on it. For you, this Sentinels performance, it wasn't their best. It wasn't great by any means. It wasn't horrible, but you're not really seeing it as a sign of worry.
Um, I thought the performance was pretty good overall. I didn't think it was anything to be like amazed at. I thought a lot of the times Frosty kept them in it.
Yeah,
He had a really good tournament. But I think at times it definitely showed like promise of what they could be. I think they just need like a lot more practice and just like experience together for a little bit longer, and then I think they can place like consistently top 3, maybe even top 2 if Frosty's frying like he was at Anaheim. But yeah, I think they did pretty good considering it's like their first tournament together.
Yeah.
What do you think, Does?
I kind of had the opposite thing. I was kind of thinking like that maybe it's time that we stop talking about the Sentinels team at like in the same breath as we did like at their Halo 5 run, you know? Cuz I think we kind of
Mhm.
still brought them over as like they're like kind of, you know, maybe Cloud9's the dominant team, but they're right there, you know, any tournament like they're going to take it. And I think I've even predicted them to like I think I predicted them to get second in this tournament. But kind of seeing the way they were playing, like I agree. They're kind of doing the same thing that Optics do. I guess a couple teams are doing this, but it's like they're like relying on like Frosty a bit too much. And I think that's not entirely like fair because like I saw Snakebite like popping off too, but really
Mhm.
like this performance from like Lethal like left a lot like to be desired. I think they brought
Yeah.
up his stats going into the last series they played, which I think it was either FaZe or E United. But they brought up the fact that he wasn't performing well in Oddball, and then
Mhm.
that entire series that I watched, it was just I was like, I don't even I hadn't seen any other team, any of the players on that team underperform like that since like this roster got started. What did you think about it, Posey?
Yes, I mean, I don't know. Like for me, I definitely think, and I think I said this in the last episode. I definitely think Lethal is probably their weakest link on there. And like if they was to pick up, I mean, if they were to pick up anybody that could kind of pick up the slack a little bit, I think you would see different results from them for their tournaments events. But they've been teaming together for so long, and they're all very, very knowledgeable of Halo, and I feel like they will pick it back up with more time played and more consistent scrims if they put forth that effort. But I do think if something doesn't change within at KC or even after there, like if they have another crap placement and Lethal doesn't do good, I do feel like they will probably maybe split up
Yeah,
the that whole roster
yeah,
or
Yeah.
just drop.
go for it. Ed.
I was just gonna say, it's definitely a bit concerning. I think Lethal I think he had like a zero point 0.7 KD when all the others were like plus. Like
Yeah,
I'm not sure how much, but they were definitely like 1.1, 1.2 ish.
it was
Their
yeah,
KDs. Yeah, obviously it's not everything, but I saw something that said like 80% of games won like rely on outslaying the others. And obviously there is a whole game mode called Slayer, so that's what
yeah,
you want your team to do. But yeah, is was this like the first tournament where Royal 2 and Snakebite didn't get to the finals? Is that what it was? Is that what the stat was? I saw
Yeah,
somewhere.
it was
Is it?
it was like their first event as a team
Mm,
where they didn't make it to the grand finals.
yeah, which is
Uh,
really concerning for me.
yeah.
But I think they should give it. I think we should give it a little bit longer just to see if they can reply. Because I feel like Lethal kind of knows he's under fire right now, so I'm sure he'll reply.
yeah, yeah. And I haven't seen. I think he kind of understands it, and I haven't seen. Usually, he's pretty like vocal on like Twitter or
Mhm.
whatever. Like,
Yeah,
and I could have just been missing it, but I haven't even really seen him like streaming or anything. So I wouldn't be surprised if he had his head down. We should also make like, you know, I'm not even making up excuses, but they are playing on Xbox. Um, I heard that it wasn't the ideal scenario, you know, so maybe that's affecting players differently, maybe not. But yeah, again, I I think this is the first time that I noticed that Lethal was like the problem, you know. And I'm not saying he's the reason that they lost, but in the past they were still so good as a 4 that you were like, okay, if they had to change somebody, like who would they even change, you know? But on this one, it's like, okay, say they had to make a roster change, like I don't think there's
yeah.
anybody that would, you know, go any other way with that. All right, moving on. Let's talk about Space Station Gaming. Um, yeah. So they're the only top 8 team from Rally to place outside of the top 8. In fact, they placed 13th through 16th and didn't end up winning a series. Um, how bad of a sign is that for SSG?
I'll let you take this one, Posey.
Yeah, that for me, and like just like going into this tournament, like I didn't predict him to do well at all, and I just don't feel like since the whole formal thing, like I don't feel like they found a roster that has clicked, and even when formal was on the team, like I mean, I'd say they were better. They were definitely better than where they are now, but like I just don't feel like they've found a team like a 4-man team squad that's clicked, and like I I mean for me I think it's a pretty bad sign. I mean it's not good. And then I don't even think they played yesterday if I'm not mistaken. Um I think
I don't think they did.
Elamite, yeah, because Elamite was doing a watch party on Twitch. So
Hmm.
yeah, I don't think they played yesterday. So like I don't know what's going on with there. And then I mean I think I don't even know where you would begin to start to try to fix it or help because I
Yeah.
don't even really
I
know or have paid much attention to see what the problem is.
Well, I think that's the main thing that stuck out to me is that you watch that team play, and we can get to them in a little bit, but they kind of had I guess maybe not as much, but they kind of almost looked like Oxygen did and like Complexity, where you just watch that team and you're like, okay, I don't even know what's. Sometimes you can't tell what the problem is. I don't even know what's working on this roster. When I
Yeah,
watched them in Rally, I was like impressed by how Ace played. And this one, every time I'm not gonna say every play I watched him make, I was unimpressed, but I was just like, dang, for 2 months more of grinding the game, it didn't. I don't know what happened to this team, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, it was fucking it was just tragic. It was
Yeah,
like really it was painful to watch because I like this team.
yeah,
And I like Ace a lot. I think the only player on that team with a positive KD was Tylenol.
yeah,
Um, which kind of says a lot because not anything towards him, but I wouldn't expect him to be the person to have the highest KD. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was just really disappointing. Like, I feel like if you're Elamite, you kind of need to look at. I wouldn't say definitely look at a roster change, but with the people that are on the market right now, I think you have to look at your roster and decide whether you want to actually like commit to grinding for another however long until the next tournament.
man.
Um,
That
yeah,
was
it's just disappointing.
Yeah, for sure. That was my next question. So you answered it. Um, Posey, for you, is there any hope for this team without making a roster change?
no, I mean
Yeah,
they have to switch it up. Like I mean
yeah,
I don't think I don't think the 4-man squad that they have now is clicking. And I mean like you said, like you Ace is like one of the known as one of the best Halo players, and like so I'm not saying he's not the problem, but like you would expect a better performance out of him and him to be competing for that top KD spot on, and again, like, obviously I think everybody here knows that KD is not everything. It's not the most important thing. But at the same time, without getting kills and, there's two Slayers in a series on in a best of five, so I mean, it's like, and you still need kills to win games. And like, if you're not doing that or putting in damage, then you're not doing anything for your team. So yeah,
yeah,
I some sort of roster change, even if it's just one person and picking up somebody that just meshes well with them and the other three, and they can grind and show some type of improvement, I think is definitely needed at this point.
yeah, definitely. No, I'm on the same boat. Yeah, after that performance, I was like, there's no way, man. I mean, if you guys want to be in the top 8 on a consistent basis, because those, like, I'd say even 6 through 8 is just, you can't. That's a tough spot to even guess who's gonna place in those. So if you
For
want to
sure.
even be in the mix of like making top 8 some tournaments, and sometimes being right outside of it, like, you can't with this roster, in my opinion. Or maybe you'll like get one, but not on a consistent basis. Okay, so we had a lot of interesting results. So let's start with you, Posey. What was another let's say a bright spot? What was a team that impressed you out of this in
I
this
think
tournament?
honestly for me, like I've kind of not necessarily slept on them, but like I just didn't have high hopes for them. I thought they were more of an online team, but or it's actually two teams really. The Fnatic squad kind of really improved. I thought they from what I was talking about in the last episode to this one, like I really think they kind of shut me up in a sense of like I think they I think I think they're moving in the right direction, and I think KCP is too. Like, I mean, I didn't have high hopes for them, and that was very wary of them. But coming into this event, but I think they showed up and showed everybody that like even by them not finishing well, like I think they played very well. They had a very good tournament, and I
Yeah.
know G2 didn't perform or didn't have a good placing, but I think they had a good event while it lasted for them.
Yeah. Definitely. No, I agree with that. Yeah, I have G2 and Xset as like in the same boat. They both kind of exceeded my expectations. What Ed, any other bright spots for you?
Um, I do just want to reference quickly that that esports arena team,
Yeah.
esports arena red. Um, I I didn't have too high hopes for them. I still thought they were gonna do pretty well, but yeah, man, they managed to beat Oxygen in pool play, and
Mhm.
then they go down to losers bracket after losing to G2 like first round, and then they go and take out SSG right from round one, um. So you've gotta respect it. But yeah, that's probably the one of the high points for me. Them and Fnatic. But if we're just talking low points, then I think it's got to be that FaZe roster.
Yeah.
Because a team of that caliber should not be placing wherever they place seventh, eighth. In my opinion, they need to consider not need to, but they might want to consider making a change. Maybe pick up Ola, reunite him with Snipe down. But those two, those two are a good duo. But then there's a question: who do you drop from that phase roster?
Yeah.
I think we've
Um
spoken we've spoken before about maybe swapping Boo Boo out for Pistola in that phase roster. Um,
yeah.
but yeah.
No, I'll right after this like we can talk about all the roster changes cuz I think we have
Hmm.
some rumors and
For
stuff
sure.
too. But so for me, yeah, the bright spots, I think so I was impressed by Fnatic's run, and I think the one thing I'll say in like Space Station's defense is like they were a couple kills away from winning that series. And I think Fnatic had two of those series, which is like nothing against them, but man, they clutched up in two like game fives, and then they ended up getting like being on the losing end, but had a super close series with that Cloud9 team. Like they looked incredible. I kind of think that we saw their best performance. Like I don't really see them topping that. I think they had the perfect run, but man, like what more can you ask for? That's like not a dig at them at all. The one team that I'll say, which it's gonna sound weird, but I'm actually disappointed in KC Pioneers because I felt like for as good as they looked on Sunday, man, they looked man, oh my god. That were you guys watching? Like that was such a heartbreaking loss to E
Mhm.
United that
Yeah.
like I just didn't even I was like mind blown. It's not all on one play, but 49-49 Druk like just pops out for some reason and like gives them a free kill, and then he didn't show up that neck like on streets. I think strongholds. It was just I was like, oh man, you play like amazing like 5 series in a row, which I'm not like I'm just using this as a metaphor, but then one series you look bad and that's like how you remember. Like I think that's how this like tournament will be for them.
Mhm.
Like I don't remember any other games before that. That last one was just so like I was like, dude, you guys are in the boat now where we're expecting you to make championship Sunday. So that's the day you need to perform. Like where you're like you belong with these teams. Like the mentality needs to change. Where and I'm not saying they have a negative one, but it's unacceptable. Like they shouldn't. In my opinion, after that performance, like I wouldn't be patting yourself on the back. I'd be like saying, it doesn't matter what happened Friday or Saturday. Like we're tired of getting like what was this, 5th to 6th? Like we need to,
Yeah.
we want to be competing to get into the grand finals. And I think that performance
Yeah,
versus E United was unacceptable.
yeah, just to add to that, like they were looking so good coming through pool play and through the bracket. But they almost like took their foot off the gas against the United. They could have won that series, in my
Yeah.
opinion. If it wasn't for like they made quite a lot of crucial mistakes, like when it was in oddball, I think it might have been recharge. They went 1-0 up and they were getting kills, they were breaking United setups, but they could not hold the setups for some reason. Like they get the kills, it'd be like 3 or 4 dead, they get their setup, and then they still end up losing the map. But
Yeah.
I think fifth is still kind of like where they belong right now. Um, it's just I felt like they could have pushed a bit further. They could have maybe even got fourth.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we talked about them. I want to talk about Oxygen and Complexity, and then that'll be a good segue into roster changes. So Oxygen and Complexity. Let's start with Oxygen Esports. They managed to get 12th, what is it? 9th through 12th. But man, they lost to ESA Red, which ended up being, a better squad than we anticipated. But still, man, for a team that's been together since before the launch of Halo Infinite, this team they look flat online, and then we're like, okay, we'll see something else in LAN play. That's 2 LANs where they've left a lot to be desired. Posey, what did you think about their performance at this
I
event?
mean, it was just another letdown event. Like, I mean, it was just. I mean, honestly, at this point, it's like they're good enough to beat all the open teams like that come into the event or online series or whatever, and they're good enough to make it there. They just maybe that's good enough for them, and like maybe that's what they want to do. Like I don't know, but like maybe to me it just seems like they're just good enough to get to that hump. They're just not good enough to get over the hump to make a good run into a top 8 team or top
Yeah.
3 team or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Uh, sorry, Ed. Any comment on what we had to
Um,
watch?
yeah, I didn't expect them to go 0-3 in pool play. Like that was
Yeah.
the craziest part to me. Like we spoke on the episode before Anaheim. I said like they should look to beat that ESA red team, and then they should look to try and take the Cloud9 and Sentinel series as far as they can. But they didn't do that.
It
Obviously, it's easier said than done. But
yeah, it was neither. Yeah, it was neither of those things. It looked.
hmm
Yeah, the only I think they ended up winning a series, and I can't remember who they ended up playing. But to obviously not get in the whatever it is, the 13th through 16th seeds. They weren't one of the
yeah,
first 4 teams out of the tournament, but they were like right after that. Yeah, I just thought this was like an abysmal performance. I think
hmm
I'll put them in the same boat as Space Station, even though these guys like online they're the complete opposite. They're complete like, we're a team. We just need to play better. But I'm not in that boat anymore. I'm putting them in the same as Space Station. Like I think this team needs to change. And
yeah.
talking about yesterday's results, they're not even playing in the top 16 this week.
Uh,
And that's with some of the best teams in the world not playing in the tournament. I think again they lost to ESEA Red in losers bracket to get kicked out of the tournament, so they couldn't even make the top 16. Yeah, it's disappointing for sure. Okay, let's segue into another disappointing performance, Complexity. I didn't even know what to say after this performance. I think
Yeah,
yeah, let's I'll let you start first, Posey.
yeah. I mean, I don't feel like I don't think it's just us that had like we just don't know what to say. Like it was just like them going into the event, like they look really strong, like and I think even stats came out like the day of Friday the tournament, like Triton his damage dealt was like top 3 among all the pros that were there. So like I think that's very impressive because and like they stated on the main stage, like in the broadcast booth, like, with that much damage being put out each game, like he's opening the map for the team, like so there should be multiple plays, and like he's essentially just setting it up to where people can just mop up kills, or he can go off and mop up kills or whatever. And like there's just no, like, they lost a 99, they had 99 points for an oddball round that they could have shut out an oddball round 2-0.
Yeah.
They lost or I mean, the score wise, I don't think it was close, but they lost like a 250 to 215 or something, street stronghold game to Optic Gaming. Like, and then even
Mhm.
at some points, like Optic Gaming had went up 100 points, and Complexity came back, and even at some points trip cap Optic Gaming and put them on a cycle for a few spawns, and gain some momentum. It's just like they honestly, it's kind of like Oxygen, like they put forth the effort in games and like keep some games close, and then it's like they let off the pedal or something. I don't know what happened. Like, I mean, it's just there's definitely some letdown there with that one. Like, I mean, all the players that were on that roster at that time, like, have performed well, like, and placed very well on land. So I I don't feel like land jitters were or should have been an issue. I
Yeah.
think they just maybe misjudged the competition that was there or something. I like, again, like, I don't know what went wrong or where to even begin.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously I think I think that we've been at least I've been underestimating that G2 team that ended up they beat them pretty handedly. But going into that series, which it was the only time I actually heard like stats from the LAN that they were, or the basically the scrims that they were having. But they were saying going to that series, they had a LAN or a set of scrims the day before, and I think G2 was up 11-2 in scrims versus Complexity. So I mean, like only what matters is like LAN day, but also if you then that's how you perform on LAN. Like they never had a chance in that game, in my opinion. And obviously they ended up there's going to be some team changes. But I think even if we didn't get that news right away, I would be here saying like there needs to be some team changes. What
Yeah.
do you have anything to add to this team, Ed?
Um, it's kind of you two covered it pretty well, but just to add on, it's like I was expecting a lot from this team considering they qualified on a high. I think it was like the first time they qualified through winners bracket or something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then it didn't turn out the way. It was more of what we talked about in the past, where like a slow, almost like half-assed start, and then they progress into the maps and into the series. But by that time, it's too slow. Like it's too late. Sorry. Like the score's already too high. You're already down however many maps.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was just unfortunate. But hopefully, because I know they have made a roster change. This is the last time we'll be talking about them in a bad light, and it'll be positive from here.
Yeah. So with that, we'll segue into roster changes. The one thing I always tend to focus on the disappointments, but Xset and G2, I'm sorry guys. Please forgive me. I will never doubt you guys again. I felt like those two teams played amazing. I think Xset could even get better. I think I think they lack a little bit of discipline, and they might be able to like take another series. Like I don't want to spend too much time on it, but they had a 14 kill lead on Sentinels on Aquarius, and like blew that lead, and Sentinels came back, and obviously that's Sentinels, but I think with a little bit of discipline, like that team could even place a little bit higher. So I'm excited to see those two teams, and I want to give them some love because they played incredible. So let's shift over to roster changes. Since we were on Complexity, let's start with them. So immediately following the tournament, we had Rob the Turtle come out and basically say that he's retiring from competitive play. The way I took it was for now, but it seemed like indefinite as far as who knows? People come back from retirement, but for now, he's out. I think he mentioned that he was also juggling a full-time job. You know, he's basically burning the candle at both ends. He's getting burnt out, and obviously, I think the fact that this team isn't getting the results that they kind of want, he decided to put it upon himself to, take himself out of the equation. And it looks like for now they're playing with Carmia in his place. So I guess what's the reaction to this news? Like, good or bad for Complexity?
You want to go first?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he was the issue. So I don't. But at the same time, like from what I know, is like he was like when the game first came out, he works as a full time social worker in New York, and he was also part time doing like therapy sessions, like for a part time gig or something.
Yeah.
And then he was competing and scrimming on top of that. So like I'm sure like all that caught up to him. As far as him competing, I don't think he can compete, from my understanding, with his contract where he essentially retired slash quit. He's under a no completion law or something. Like he can't go out and compete like
Against
until his
against
contract is
that
up.
squad.
But to answer your question, like for me, that's hard. Like, and this is no attack at hysteria or anything, but like had he stepped down, had he
Mm-hmm.
been the one to step down, like I would instantly say the pickup of another younger player like Carmea, or they were also running with Brainstorm, but I think ultimately they went with Carmea. I think it would be a dramatic improvement, but I think, and I'm not saying it's not going to be an improvement with Carmea on the team and Rob not there, because like in some situations Rob played this game a little too slow. And I think in this game, like you have to be at the top level. They're moving at 100 miles per hour, like around the map. Like it's ridiculous. Um, so I feel like, again, like he wasn't the main issue of the team. So like to say it's gonna be beneficial to them, I don't know. Like I do know they made it to the Thursday to play in Thursday's Pro Series or Open Series, whatever they're calling it now, without dropping a game yesterday or without
Yeah.
dropping a series. So,
Yeah, that's definitely a bright spot for him. I think where I'm at, it's like too soon to judge if like Carme is the right pickup, or I don't even know if we might be butchering that name, but I don't think it's bad. I don't think necessarily like Rob, the Rob like replacement or whatever is the worst thing they could have done. But at the same time, honestly, watching this team play, like I would say, kind of like along the lines of what you were saying, that like I wouldn't watch that team play and then think like, oh, they just need to replace one player and then this team will be good. Like I think I honestly would have liked them to see like which I thought were the two stronger pieces. Or I'm kind of, not to look too much into the team. I'm not really sure where Vetra's at in the game. Like how I was pretty high on him when he first came into the lineup, and now it's cooled off a little bit. I don't mind him still being in the lineup, but I think you keep Triton in either Vetra or Rob, and then you look for like a duo, like one of those upcoming duos. I think that's the kind of way they needed to go. But obviously this team needed a change, so at least for that much, it's a good move. Is there anything you want to say on this, Ed, or can we go to the big giant roster move? Go ahead.
I'll make it quick. I do like the pickup of Tamiya. I could have slaughtered his name because of
yeah,
my
it's
accent.
me and Das has been saying it's Carmea.
Yeah, it's just my accent. Ignore it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I personally do quite like it. I'm quite a supporter of picking up young talent, like young upcoming talent. I think he's 18 or 19.
Jeez.
Which is yeah, sometimes it's what you need to
Mm-hmm.
have like a almost a hothead
Yeah.
who just wants to learn on the roster. I'm not sure how old Vetra is, but is he?
I think
He's
he's pretty
like,
young too.
yeah, he's
I was
like
gonna
18
say
or 19 as well too.
yeah. So I think that provides quite a good balance. You've got two like wiser and like more experienced players on a team with two younger ones. I think it provides a nice balance. But yeah, I hope that this team will be what we always thought it was going forward.
Yeah.
Just to move on to this, we can move on to Pistola now because
Okay.
I know everyone's
So
dying to talk about
yeah,
it.
yeah, right. So not gonna sugarcoat it all. Ola's out, Formal's in. Good move or bad move for Optic? And then we'll go into like a little bit of where you'd like to see, or if you want to tag on that, where you'd like to see Pistola go for it. So I'll start with you, Posey.
I think, I think on paper it's a solid move because I think Formal brings a whole different aspect of Halo to that team. Whereas Ola, nothing against Ola, like I just don't think his playstyle fit that team, and I think that's why maybe they were struggling or he was struggling or looked like he was struggling.
Yeah.
So I think, I think with the with the addition of Formal, I think it's going to be a heavy slaying team. Like they're going to be very dominant, and he's going to really. I think he's going to take over the IGL and kind of let Lucid do Lucid things. Um, so I just feel like I think I think overall I think it was a mutual thing. I think Ola may have wanted to step down. I think he still wanted to compete, but I feel like he possibly knew that like something wasn't meshing right, and I think maybe, like I said, his play style I don't think was fitting their play style at all. And I think that's maybe why he was having some poor events.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think Formal. I don't know if it's gonna be good or bad. I want to think it's good. Because I do like this roster. This four now. Obviously I liked him before. But I just feel like Ola didn't have the right pieces around him. I think he can be really, really good and he can be really effective when he's got the right pieces around him.
Yeah.
They just didn't have that setup. But now with Formal's quite vocal. He's had a lot of experience. I think it should be a good roster move, in my opinion.
Yeah. I agree. I think a change needed to be made. I think for sure Lucid, but I think Lucid and Trippy, like they're too good to be
Hmm.
like, I don't know. It's almost like not fair to them, but they're you have to put pieces around it. Like if they're not in a grand final and like at least almost winning, like it's almost gonna be for sure on their teammates. Like these two are like so good at this game that you can't have them just dragging your team barely to the like grand finals. And I know like Ola and APG are doing their thing. Like I'm not knocking them. I'm just talking about there's a difference between the top two teams in Halo and like everybody else. And like and I think Optic obviously wants to, like, if they're not competing for the trophy, like they're not interested. But I don't also on that, I don't think this move would have happened as quickly like if Formal wasn't already like pretty much on the bench. You know what I mean? Like looking over their shoulders when they're at lands and everything. It's just like honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if I don't think like Pistola would ever say it, and I don't think it's like a good enough reason that he was playing, as bad as he was. But I wouldn't even be surprised if it did affect his gameplay to know that like, dude, like you have one of like the greatest Halo players ever, like which Pistola is as well, but just waiting to take your spot, man. Like you know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
I think that's what Posey was kind of getting at too. I wouldn't be surprised if there was like almost a mutual like Pistola's like, dude, I don't want this kind of like pressure on me. Like maybe it is me. Maybe I'm the one that's like kind of letting down the team and just stepping back. As far as where I'd like to see him go, it's kind of tough for me. I still don't. I don't know if I really like the FaZe move, because I honestly think FaZe could go with a roster move, but for them too, I'd kind of like to see them pick up like another just like real raw talent.
Young
Yeah,
talent.
young raw talent, and just just like slay out, you know. I think they have enough experience with like Snipe down to where he can like lead that team. So I not that I wouldn't want to see FaZe do a roster move. Honestly, for I don't know, man. I don't know I'll probably have to think about it some more where I would want to see Pistola at.
You could
Yeah,
always end up on that United squad. Sorry,
no,
you
I mean you're fine.
could always end up on that United squad because I feel like this was kind of an overachiever event for them. I don't think they'll do the same again.
Y- yeah.
So in terms of who they replace, maybe maybe Nick. I don't
Um,
really see them replacing any of the others.
I mean it's Nick or Rain, right? And
Yeah.
if it's not, you know, if we're saying like it's not Rain, but like the other two are like untouchable for sure.
Hmm.
But to be honest, so I have like a completely different stance on this like EU United team real quick. For me, they're not the only team, but one of the only teams like I would not touch that roster cuz I think they're the only team that is overperforming right now. And I think it's because all the other teams are relying on like more on their individual like skills. Obviously they have teamwork, but that team is just like Rhinoob's getting the most out of those pieces that like nobody could replace Rhinoob right now and make that team better. Like not, you know, not Lucid, not Eco. So for me, I would just if I was him, I would just keep practicing, keep going over your strats, and then like watch the other teams just kind of devolve even more, you know. But we'll see with big moves if there's some crazy stuff on the horizon. Um, so I think we touched on it pretty good. We don't like obviously there's like rumors about where he might be going, but we don't know anything yet. I think the other big piece, big move would be the G1 roster change. Mostly just that it seems like I don't know if Ollie has come out and made a statement on it, but it seems like they either mutually parted ways or he decided to leave the roster. But Ollie will no longer be playing with G1, and I think they've at least replaced the spot temporarily. But what do you think about G1 like losing a player like Ollie?
Go on, Posey.
I think I mean I think it's gonna set them back a bit depending on who they pick up. But I think they'll bounce back fine. From what I've heard around the league is he like essentially kind of like either retired or quit again. Like I'm not 100% sure on like
Hmm.
the full story of it, but I think he like or he's moving to be a content creator for G1. So that's just what I heard. But yeah, I think it'll be a minor setback. I think there's a lot of raw young talent like you were talking about out there that just hasn't been discovered yet. Like
Yeah.
there's some really good players out there in the AM scene, and like they just need their break and to be put on the right team in the right situation to excel. I
Yeah.
think.
I kind of I'm gonna kind of a little bit more down on them. I do agree that they have like, you know, I think there's plenty of untapped talent. I don't believe in their core, you know. I think that they could I think if Ali would have stayed and somebody else would have decided to like take off or whatever, like I wouldn't be as down on them, but the fact that they like lost Ali, I'm like I don't know. I don't really see this team like us talking about this team in the top 16 anymore. Unless like something like they have a major like I think they need to at least drop like one more player. Like I'll say I don't really believe in like pre-Devinator on this team. Um
Hmm.
he kind of to me he kind of fell off in Halo 5. I don't know if he really came back. And this team was like you know like a scrappy team. They're fun to watch. But yeah, for me it's I'm out for G1. Not for me, dog. What about you, Ed?
Um, I definitely agree with you. I think it's set them back at least a bit.
Yeah.
From what I saw, they were scrimming with Tony from that UYU roster, which is
Hmm.
another one of the young talents. Which I quite like the pickup. Obviously, it's not quite Ali's level right now, but I think Tony brings a lot to the table. He's young. He's kind of like like a spark, he can just catch on fire and then can almost run away with the series. So only time will tell. I mean,
Yeah.
you said you didn't really like the core of the team that much. I do agree with you on a sense. Like I think maybe they should have looked to make 2 roster changes instead of 1.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So
they're
yeah,
still fun.
yeah.
Yeah, I like their, their like
Mhm.
whole like branding and stuff. It's cool. They do some really good content. So I'm like rooting for them. It'll be cool to see them compete, but just as they are right now, I'm not like I'm
Yeah.
not really feeling it. Any other big roster big I think we'd there's obviously roster changes, but I don't think there's any like major ones that are like official yet. Um is there anything that I'm missing from those?
No.
Um, I guess, well, just that UYU team, they all got, I'm not sure what happened, but they all got dropped pretty much. I think
Yeah.
it might have just been that they signed them to like a one event contract type thing.
Yeah, I did
Um,
think that was kind of strange because I think so who was it? It was Torrent, UYU, and then ESE Red. I thought UYU seemed to be the biggest org out of those three.
yeah,
And then they were the only ones that signed like it seemed like at least from what we know, the one tournament deal, but hopefully at least those teams like land on or those players from that team land on good teams, but that is unfortunate that they didn't get to stick together. I don't know how much of a I think they kind of might have already hit their like peak, but it was fun to see them. It would have been cool to see if they could have made another good run at a LAN. So I guess we could talk about yesterday's results real quick, and then kind of just maybe give some predictions for the next tournament. Then we could call it a day.
sure. Uh, I got the teams that qualified. Um, yeah, I mean the teams that qualified, it was G1, Fnatic, Exet, Complexity, Torrent, that ESA Red team, another unsigned talent team, and then Snaked and Heated. Snaked and Heated, I believe, is Rated's team, Rated
Oh
from
yeah,
Call of Duty. Um, but yeah, I don't really. The only thing that surprised me was that Oxygen didn't make it. I think BBG were playing with.
they're playing with their
I think they were
coach.
playing with. Yeah, they were playing with
Yeah,
Neighbor.
yeah. So
But
that'll be cool. We didn't really talk about them too. Nebula, however it was
mhm.
done, is now playing for Black Hand.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Which to be honest, I think the craziest part about that move is that like that would be Nebula's basically going from a team that was like could be considered the best AM team to a team that hasn't really even been making it to pro series. At least not on. I don't know if they've made it at all, but they're definitely not making it on a regular basis. So that was kind of a crazy move, but it'll be exciting to see who BBG picks up. But I kind of think, just with the way these rosters are working out, I kind of think the top 8, are gonna kind of stay the top 8. We're not gonna really. I don't really have any like super crazy predictions. So they're gonna meet the top 8 from basically the LAN, right? Is that how
Yeah.
it's working?
Yeah, I believe
Okay.
so.
So we'll get to see if like any of these teams have made some like roster changes because I think we're kind of speculating that some of them might have.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't. Go ahead, Ed.
I was just gonna say, I was just gonna ask quickly whether any of you see like any potential upsets happening now that it is back online.
Um, for me, no. I'm kind of with Das on this one. Like, I honestly, I see the teams that are waiting for that have been waiting for Thursday. The top 8 teams that are already there. I don't see much of change. And if anything, it may be like G2 may get knocked out by Exit or something. I
Hmm.
think that would be, and I don't even call that an upset because I feel like Exit is playing right there along the sides with them. Like I feel like skill wise, I think they keep up with all of them tit for tat for the most part. Um, but no, I don't predict really no big upsets this week. I think everything may stay. I think I'd say like 85% everything will stay the same. Just
Hmm.
leave that 15% in case something wild happens.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. What do you think, Dos?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. The only thing I could see happening is maybe, one of these teams that's kind of, since it's so far from, the next LAN, and they're just coming back from this from Anaheim. I could see one of the teams being a little bit unpracticed, one of the pro teams, and maybe that'll cause them to underperform. I guess some of the teams that underperformed at the LAN too, it'll be interesting to see how they play. And I think G2 too also hasn't been playing the best online, because I think they played a lot better on LAN, so it'll be interesting to see how they perform. But I think that so I think that pretty much covers it. Hopefully we'll get to do, maybe we'll plan our next episode for after the Pro Series, but hopefully like Saturday or Sunday this weekend. And we should have a special guest on. We have a couple of special guests lined up, so that should be exciting. But thanks everybody for tuning in, and we will see you next episode.